farmers easily. I will meet with him when I go from here back to India, I think on 29th, and we are ramping up one more activity with him about unrelated thing, but related again of farming agriculture. So that's clearly one, that there are pockets of entrepreneurs who are finding out that it is possible. Now this is not meant for the domestic market as it is for the international market, but my view is that the concept works even domestically if you wanted to. So it's a question of private enterprise initiative. Second one is little more. I think India cold storage will not come till we have organized retailing. Right now, most retailing, and especially the agricultural fresh produce, is all unorganized retailing. The vendors come and then they put it on the street, typically, and you will have each vendor specializing by one vegetable or whatever they do. So I think if we more allow organized retailing, which says for my scale and presence, I have to have supply chain, I have to have cold storage, I have to have warehousing. I think that will come if organized retailing is encouraged, and that is where the political aspects comes in, because the incumbents in India would prefer that the foreign multinationals like the Walmarts don't come. They dread them, because Walmart is so efficient in what it does, Carrefour is so efficient in what they do, and they have a worldwide experience. But to me, I think eventually the government will relax the domestic political pressures that they get, like any place. It's a normal for business people to protect their turf, but I think that's going to change. There is now a metro concept. I think comes from the Carrefour, which is a wholesale market. Wholesale market has already emerged, which means, so the number of middlemen is highest in Sri Lanka, or used to be. Second highest is in India, where from the farmer to the home, how many people are involved. And with organized retailing, you reduce it down to two at best. A wholesale and a retail, or a Walmart will have only one. They are a wholesaler and a retailer pretty much, right? So it's very interesting, one step, two step. So that's the second thing. The third initiative, I think, is a lot bolder, and this is where the issues arises. Agriculture, if you add in agriculture, let's say shrimp, fish, pork, if you add in agriculture, in fact, milk, dairy products, it's a very complex business, in the sense that it's the largest dairy milk producer and milk consumer country in the world. But that got organized by cooperatives. Amul, AMUL is a brand name, which is just one cooperative. So that's clearly, how do you undo that is going to be very difficult. So it's a question of, historically, the way we organize the agriculture retail sector is going to come to haunt them now pretty much. How do you undo and redo it? I think it's like, how do I build a super highway in the middle of old homes now, right? You can't demolish them because people own them, they have private property rights. So that's the debate. I also believe that this is a sector, unfortunately, cotton is a part of agriculture, to tell you, where there is just so much of political payoff. And therefore politicians are basically in the pockets of some of the very wealthy landlords or some of the very wealthy farm ownership community. I must tell you, I'm very optimistic. Just to give you the opposite side, the second largest orange grove in the world is now in India. First is in Brazil, as I mentioned. It is 50,000 acres of nothing but orange groves. It's in Uttaranchal Pradesh. This more modern farming that's coming in, where the farmer is no longer that bullock cart, small one-on-one toiling, but farming itself is going to become a big business, scale oriented. Then you will see a lot more balance of power between the food creator and the food distributor, or the agriculture product maker and the distributor. So, but that's going to take a long time. So I think the first two initiatives through market process will make a little more change.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor, for that very detailed answer and an excellent question. Do we have any other questions from the floor, please? Yes, ma'am, if you'd like to come up to the microphone.
Professor Jack, Chris Cheong from Help University College. This is a very short question. Earlier this morning, you mentioned that educators cannot be entrepreneurs because of our mindset of being theoretical or something like. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
There is overwhelming empirical evidence that you are busy if you are an entrepreneur, whether it's a music entrepreneurship, like the rock band people, or whether in fact it is a business entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs have one knack: they don't like to be tied by rules, regulations, or by disciplines. And schools tend to put you into disciplines. They put you into routines, regularity. So while they're going to the school or college, their mind is some other place. I mean, last one of those you saw is the founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, I think is his name. Bill Gates, one before that one. I mean, I can give you history after history. So is the schooling the way we do it, education the way we do it, is so structured. And the entrepreneurs don't like that structure to be what we call a straight jacket. So the solutions are the following. One is to make actually structure of schooling change to fit into the entrepreneurial style. Make a course in the curricula to get a degree in a way that's very flexible. In fact, some universities in America are experimenting at the undergraduate level to say, all right, you define the courses you want to take. As opposed to saying, for you to major in economics, you must take these classes. So that's clearly one that's happening already, because there is a sort of a reaction negative by undergraduate students to say, you are structuring us too much, we don't know what we want to be yet, kind of a stuff. So that's one. The second aspect is very key. I think, and Stanford does it right now, Carnegie Mellon does it. They're finding that if you create an ecosystem, both in both campuses in technology, then this entrepreneur thrives in that ecosystem. So you nest the entrepreneur into an ecosystem where what he or she wants to do becomes even much more enabling. And key advantage in Silicon Valley, and then for Stanford, Berkeley, and one more university gained tremendous advantage, is that they also have created a venture capital climate there. I have a friend whose son in the second year at Stanford already got $15–20 million for a simple idea, one of those applications on, let's say, iPad or iPhone. Otherwise, the entrepreneur will struggle quite a lot, you see, clearly. So those are the reasons why. But I think the one thing good about the US, I must tell you, is that it's very adaptive. It changes based upon market conditions, based upon circumstances. So it scrambles all the time. So you can make a scientist an entrepreneur. The rules are very simple. Great inventors are usually not good entrepreneurs. Great entrepreneurs are usually not good managers. And the worst managers are people like me who are consultants. We can give you great advice, but if you ask us to do it, we will fail, okay? I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Professor.
I'm going to take this advantage to talk to you about something else. I have read that you had, in an interview, talked about chief marketing officers. And there was a recent survey I would like to share in this region that said that the chief marketing officers are losing their clout, or they're losing their say in the corporate boardroom. Unfortunately, they're not part of the decision-making process as they used to be. I just would like to ask Professor your thoughts on this, because I know that you feel quite strongly about CMOs and how they should conduct the business. Very interested in your opinion.
Okay, sure. In emerging markets, and especially in countries like India, and to some extent China. Generally, the chief marketing officer becomes the CEO of the company. Whereas in the US, CMOs never become CEOs. It's rare, very rare. Even in packaged goods companies, rare. So I've been trying to figure out why. Well, first of all, to be a CEO, you really need to know how the products are made. In India, typical education is that you are an engineer, then immediately you do your management degree, then you join a company, learn the real world, kind of a thing, and you are into sales and marketing if you are a B2B company and, business market, and you are into, going and meeting the traders, out there, learn all the ropes about, and then come back to the company. In America, it doesn't happen for whatever reason. So we have lost a lot of credibility of the CMO even being invited to the boardroom. The VP of sales in industrial markets like an IBM would still be coming, but I sit on the boards of large companies, both there as well as I've never seen a marketing officer make any presentation in the boardroom. I just can't believe that, right? So what we have done are 2-3 things. First of all, at Alcoa, we did not call him a chief marketing officer. The word marketing is negative within the company, unlike in emerging economies. That's very key. So we call that person chief customer officer. Suddenly light bulbs went on, because the CEO actually networks with the customer CEOs all the time. So he's into that himself. And the board is into it, because boards are, CEOs of other companies, you see. So they all relate to that right away. So at Alcoa, by just changing the name of the person, he got more invited in the board discussions. So this is clearly one. I have a recommendation I have made that marketing function, it is so critical, you cannot leave it to the marketing person. The whole organization has to do marketing. So for example, in consulting business, your revenue producer is your marketer. In all professional services, in healthcare like doctors, we're professors. That's what we are, producers, but we are also marketers, right? Because we are the brand ambassadors for the university. So my recommendation is that we should make marketing function a staff function, not a line function. Preferably a corporate staff function, just like the chief human resource officer, chief financial officer, who are always present in the board meetings. Now, as a staff person, he is in charge of governance. So all the elements out there, business units or product units, cannot deviate from certain norms about branding, certain norms about logo, distribution, just like finance and HR. HR has their own policies, everybody has to behave. I think so. I've been strongly, in fact, latest academic paper I wrote, I've said that marketing ought to go from a line management to a staff management function. Sales ought to be line management, but marketing ought to be a staff function. And don't call him as chief marketing officer. I don't know what else to call. Then I think it's going to work out very well, pretty much. So it's a function very much needed. It's universal. It's like breathing air. We got to have it every place, right? That's my recommendation. In a business-to-business environment, it works a little better, because they do have a key account management. The large customers are key account management. Okay? Any other questions?
Thanks, Professor.
Good afternoon, Professor. Name is Umang Sharma. You mentioned about a common Asian currency.
Yes.
And you said that one should have it, or probably it would be coming in the very near future. For the purpose of discussion, we could call it a Chindia dollar.
Yeah, right.
Now, what do you think that in the very near future, is it a possibility? And if yes, what kind of time frame? And if it is in the near future, then what do you think would it stand as compared to a dollar in terms of strength? Thank you.
I think it will take several stages to restructure it, which is already happening. The first stage of restructuring is that all countries will now have multiple currency reserves. And China has teed up the idea, testing the waters, that maybe IMF should be made into a central bank's central bank. One more hierarchy. And IMF is the custodian of all these different currencies as reserves. That's first architect. That's already almost getting in place. One step before that one is much more practical. If I am a country, let's say India, and my largest trading partners are 4 or 5 countries where 80% of my import-export goes for whatever reason, then my central bank ought to keep reserves of those currencies. So in case there is a run on the Japanese yen or the Korean won, if they are my partners, then my central bank has the possibility of intervening by buying or selling, those currencies. If you had a multi-currency denomination in your portfolio, so it's a portfolio approach to currency reserves. That's clearly, and that's happening. All major trading nations are now going in that direction. So they have a euro, they have a British pound, they have of course the American dollar, etc. The two currencies that ought to be there are not convertible or they are not traded. One is the Chinese renminbi and of course the Indian rupee. They are hardening the Indian rupee. You will see Indian rupee now has its own symbol, government orchestrated. Indian rupee probably will be made more convertible. It's a very, very lengthy process. You have to make sure when it happens, it doesn't collapse kind of a stuff. So I do believe that Indian rupee will be teed up as a convertible currency. So I can go any airport and I can exchange Indian rupee as I do with dollars or with British pound or euro. And then Chinese currency will be done the same. Okay? That's clearly the step. I still believe that ultimately having a single currency would be necessity on the Asia side. The problem is on the Asia side there is no one dominant currency which is traded that could become a de facto. The European history is very important to understand. There was a de facto currency called the British pound. I mean, that ruled the world. Every central bank knew how to possess it, how to reserve it and everything, but it was toppled by the German and the French coalition. Germany is the largest economy in European Union and they did not want to depend